Am I the antagonist for being involved with sending someone to jail that has spent their lives in prison? Many years ago, I worked as a clergy and took care of an elderly woman in her late 80s. She was bedridden and constantly in pain. Since I also experienced chronic pain, I tried to help others who were going through the same thing. My routine included visiting her, reading to her, praying with her, and providing encouragement. Additionally, I would bring her treats, snacks, and even occasionally one of my beloved animals as she loved them. The woman's granddaughter was responsible for her daily care. One day when I visited, she complained about being in a lot of pain. I offered her a pain pill, but she informed me that she had run out and her granddaughter, Alex, claimed she had used them all. It seemed odd since it was only the middle of the month. I had some of my own medication, so I gave her one, and then I decided to speak with Alex about it. To my surprise, she was quite open about the situation and admitted that her grandma had allowed her to sell the pills for extra money to support them. I was shocked and appalled. Selling medication is illegal and extremely dangerous. I had a serious conversation with Alex about the risks involved, including the possibility of arrest or being robbed, and how her grandmother really needed the medication. A week or so later, when I returned, the woman named Ruth was in extreme pain, screaming in agony. I quickly provided her with some of my medication, and when she was able to speak, I asked her why she was in so much pain and if she had spoken to the doctor. She expressed confusion as to why her medication didn't last the whole month. I inquired about Alex selling the pills, and Ruth had no idea about it. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough medication to help her without seriously affecting my own health. I was unsure if leaving them would prevent them from being sold. I had another conversation with Alex, making it clear that I couldn't bear to see Ruth in excruciating pain and that I would not allow it to continue. However, Alex callously suggested closing Ruth's door so that her screams weren't as audible. This outrageous response nearly caused me to lose my temper. I firmly stated that I did not like involving law enforcement but would not hesitate to do so if Alex continued stealing her grandmother's pills. At the beginning of the following month, I asked Ruth to show me her medication. Even though it had only been 2 days since she picked them up, both bottles of pain medicine had only 6 pills remaining. I was furious. Confronting Alex once again, she freely admitted to selling them, but claimed that her grandmother said it was acceptable. I checked with Ruth again, and through tearful sobs she disclosed that she had told Alex that she could use the medication if she needed to, but pleaded with her not to do so. I paid one more visit, only to find Ruth still writhing in pain. I provided her with more medication, excused myself to the bathroom, and cried. I asked her if she had someone else who could take care of her, and she mentioned that she did. I instructed her to contact that person, and I reported the situation to the police. While I felt a sense of relief for taking action, I would have preferred to resolve the issue without involving law enforcement. Everything seemed resolved until recently when I received an email informing me that Alex is going back to jail. I can't help but feel responsible for ruining her life, even though it was never my intention. When I asked others for their opinions, the responses were mixed. So, was I in the wrong here? You did the right thing by involving the police. It is absolutely unacceptable for someone to steal medication from a vulnerable and bedridden person, especially when they are in excruciating pain. You tried to reason with Alex and explain the consequences of her actions, but she continued to prioritize her own selfish desires over her grandmother's well-being. By contacting the police, you ensured that Ruth would receive the care and protection she desperately needed. It's not your fault that Alex got in trouble. It's her own actions that led her to face the consequences. Your intentions were always to help Ruth and prevent her from suffering further. You did everything in your power to resolve the situation without involving the police, but unfortunately it reached a point where legal intervention was necessary. You should feel proud of yourself for standing up for what is right and protecting someone who couldn't protect themselves. Don't let guilt consume you. You made the right decision, and ultimately, you helped Ruth in the best way possible. Am I the antagonist for calling my family out for going behind my back at my wedding? I, 33, am a female who recently got married to my husband, 36, who is a male. Leading up to our wedding, we didn't have any issues. The wedding was pretty relaxed, with not many rules, except for one important rule. No children, unless they were part of the wedding party. 1 flower girl, 2 junior bridesmaids, and 1 ring bearer. I knew from the beginning that my aunt didn't like this rule. It's not that we don't like kids, but we simply didn't have the capacity to accommodate them. On the wedding day, everything was going well, and I was talking with some other guests when my aunt approached me with her teenage daughter. She announced that she had brought her anyways, and that she didn't think it was a big deal. I was shocked and didn't know how to react. I didn't want to cause a scene, so I hugged her, excused myself, and let it go. The next day, I discussed the incident with my sister, who told me to read through my texts from that day. My maid of honor had my phone for most of the day, but my sister had warned me that my aunt planned to bring her daughter behind my back. Apparently, my aunt wanted her daughter there and was determined to sneak her in. Furthermore, I found out that my aunt had been rude to many of my guests. She ignored them when they greeted her or gave them hostile glares. This behavior upset me and I decided I couldn't ignore it. I texted my father and stepmother to inform them that I would be messaging my aunt about her behavior at my wedding. I just wanted to give them a heads up because drama tends to spread rapidly in my family. I honestly expected them to ignore the text and move on, as they usually do. However, they responded with extreme rudeness. Turns out they had told my aunt it was acceptable to bring her daughter, regardless of my wishes. They claimed that I was being overly emotional and overreacting, asserting that they had every right to allow her to come. They made the decision and that was that. It's important to note that they had no involvement in the wedding planning. They had clearly stated from the beginning that they didn't want to be involved. I expressed my hurt over their behavior and told them that they didn't have the right to do what they did. I also mentioned how rude they were to me and my husband. I informed them that I would still be sending a message to my aunt regardless of their disapproval. They didn't appreciate my response. I sent a text to my aunt explaining that the no kids rule was in place for a reason, as we couldn't accommodate them, and that her behavior towards my guests was unacceptable. I even asked if something was bothering her and expressed my hope that she was okay. Unfortunately, my younger sister sided with my parents in this situation, and we haven't spoken since. I am aware that my family has been spreading the narrative that I was disrespectful for not initially inviting my cousin and for standing up for myself against my parents and aunt. So am I the asshole here? You are not the a-hole in this situation. You set a simple rule for your wedding regarding no children unless they were part of the wedding party, and your aunt deliberately disregarded it by sneaking her daughter in. Your aunt's behavior was disrespectful and showed a lack of consideration for your wishes on your special day. Furthermore, your parents' response to your concerns and their rude behavior towards you were not justified. They should have supported you and respected your decision as it was your wedding. It is understandable that you would feel hurt and disappointed by their actions. You also handled the situation with your aunt appropriately by directly addressing her behavior in a respectful manner. It is important to stand up for yourself and enforce the boundaries you set. Your younger sister's siding with your parents should not determine whether you were right or wrong. Each person's view and loyalty may vary, but it does not diminish the fact that you were justified in your actions. Overall, your aunt and those who disregarded your wishes and disrespected you were in the wrong. Your behavior was reasonable, and you should not feel guilty for standing up for yourself. Am I the antagonist for not doing Elf on the Shelf despite my kids enjoying it? I am a 39-year-old mother with 5 kids under the age of 7. I also have a full-time job and I am pursuing my PhD. I am extremely busy and don't have much free time. However, I prioritize spending quality time with my children whenever I can. I want to make it clear that despite my hectic schedule, I am dedicated to my kids and love them dearly. During the holiday season, my husband, 42, and mother-in-law, 64, suggested that we start the tradition of Elf on the Shelf. At first, I found the idea cute and liked the novelty of it since I never experienced it as a child. But I quickly realized that taking on this tradition would just add another task to my already packed schedule. Writing letters and creatively hiding the elf every night seemed like fun, but impractical given my limited free time. So, my husband and mother-in-law volunteered to manage the Elf on the Shelf activity. On December 1st, my mother-in-law read the kids a fun story about the elf and made a big show of finding it. The children loved it and were overjoyed. However, by the second day, my mother-in-law expressed that she was tired and couldn't come by every night to write letters and move the elf. She suggested that I take over, but I firmly declined. This annoyed both her and my husband. Reluctantly, my husband took on the responsibility for nights 3 and 4, although he grumbled about it. When he hinted at needing help, I stood my ground and refused to assist. By the 5th night, the pressure became too much. My husband and mother-in-law confronted me, accusing me of laziness and ruining Christmas for our kids. I reiterated that I never wanted to participate in the Elf on the Shelf tradition in the first place. I made it clear that if they stopped their efforts, I wouldn't continue either. Days 6 and 7 passed with the elf staying in one spot, resulting in disappointed children and a furious husband and mother-in-law. Reluctantly, my husband took over the Elf on the Shelf routine again, but he still sees me as unreasonable and uncooperative. He criticized me, calling me a bad mother, lazy, and an asshole. He has also refused to speak to me. I can't help but wonder if I acted immaturely. It only takes 15 minutes a day to write a letter and hide the elf creatively. Deep down, I still feel that this tradition is an unnecessary burden on my life. Am I being unreasonable by not wanting to get involved with Elf on the Shelf? It is completely understandable that you have kindly declined taking on the Elf on the Shelf tradition given your busy schedule with 5 young children, a full-time job, and pursuing a PhD. You have made it clear from the beginning that you did not want to undertake this additional responsibility. Your husband and mother-in-law should respect your decision and not pressure you into it. You have dedicated your spare time to spending quality moments with your children, demonstrating your love and commitment to them. It is unfair for your husband to accuse you of being lazy or a bad mother. He needs to appreciate the immense load you already carry and acknowledge your efforts. While it may only take 15 minutes a day to write a letter and hide the elf, it is important to acknowledge the mental and emotional burden it adds to your already overwhelming schedule. Your husband and mother-in-law need to understand and support your decision rather than guilt-tripping and name-calling you. Communication is key in resolving this issue. Your husband should be willing to have an open and understanding conversation to reach a compromise or explore alternative solutions. It is not fair for him to refuse to talk to you or continue to label you negatively. In conclusion, your unwillingness to get involved in Elf on the Shelf does not make you an asshole. You have valid reasons for declining, and your husband and mother-in-law should respect and support your decision rather than belittle you. Am I the antagonist for telling my daughter that either everybody comes to her birthday party or no one comes at all? My daughter is 11 going on 12, and her birthday is coming up in a few weeks. For her birthday, she wants to go swimming, so we rented the local community center that has a pool and a giant activity room where we'll have lots of treats and stuff. We asked her to make us a list of invitees so we can get everything coordinated. She asked if she could just invite her whole class of 20 or so kids. It's a big activity center with lots of rooms, so we said that was fine. So she goes to the kitchen and about 10 minutes later comes back with her classmate directory. Her school puts together a small binder that lists the names of the students by each class, the names of the parentas, and a phone number and/or email address. She hands it to me, and I quickly notice that 3 names have been crossed out. I asked why, and she said those are the ones she doesn't want to invite. I started asking her other questions, like if they had an argument, or if they were mean, bullies, etc. And she maintained that no, she just thought they were strange and didn't really like them. I told her that she can't just invite the whole class with just 3 exclusions. She just kind of looked at me and said it's her birthday. I explained that this could be hurtful to them, and that if she was so staunchly against them attending, then it would be better to have a smaller party and invite just a handful of her closest friends. She said she doesn't want a small party, she wanted a big party, and I told her then everyone in the class is getting an invitation. She said no, they aren't, and I told her okay, then no one is, and she ran out of the room crying. She has started crying and running away whenever she has seen me since, and I'm starting to feel guilty. My wife was frustrated with me and says that she gets where I'm coming from, but it is daughter's birthday and she should only have the people she wants there. I tried to explain that I don't want our daughter to be a reason these 3 kids have a crappy time in school. I can't in good conscience let her exclude other kids like this. Wife says all we need to worry about is daughter having a fun birthday, and I'm already ruining for picking a fight over something no one will remember years down the road, but I don't agree at all. If they were bullies, that would be one thing. But they aren't, so to me it's cruelty. And cruelty sticks with people. Am I the asshole here? It's understandable that you don't want your daughter to exclude 3 specific kids from her party without any valid reason. By explaining the potential hurt that it could cause and offering the alternative of a smaller party with her closest friends, you tried to find a compromise. It's important to teach kids about empathy and being considerate of others' feelings. Your wife may have a point about prioritizing your daughter's fun birthday, but it's also crucial to ensure that it doesn't come at the expense of others' feelings.